The greatest GT3 race of them all is in action this weekend here at Spa-Francorchamps. It is the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. The rain that we had earlier on in the day, and there was a lot of it, has thankfully stopped. The track a little bit damp in places, but after a mixed track surface for free practice, started dry, got really wet towards the end. We're looking forward to an ever-drying circuit for the next hour, which is for pre-qualifying. You can see that the rather ominous leaden clouds are still hovering over the circuit, and then how damp the road is. It's going to be an interesting session, that's for certain. As for many of the drivers, it is another opportunity to get used to a new circuit. For some of the teams, of course, chance to feel their way into another busy weekend. This the third 24-hour race on the bounce, and it's not only drivers but engineers as well, and in many cases that have had some very long nights. It's the second GT weekend back-to-back here. British GT, French GT in action last weekend, and BMW drivers are plenty. Dan Harper, Raffaele Marciello, Jesse Krohn, Augusto Farfus all there looking forward to victory. Jesse Krohn, of course, along with Raffaele Marciello, part of that winning crew just a week ago at the Nürburgring, where Augusto Farfus, Jesse Krohn and Raffaele Marciello with Kelvin van der Linde came out on top. Kelvin van der Linde moving across to his regular GT World Challenge Europe number 32 BMW for this weekend. Because the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is not just part of GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Endurance Cup with points at 6 and 12 as well as 24 hours, but it's also part of Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. We'll be talking more about that as we get through the course of the hour. David Anderson and Joe Osborne are trackside. The sun is trying to break through, and we're looking forward to the next hour, which doesn't necessarily affect the grid. If for any reason we couldn't run the qualifying session tonight, then you would have a grid from this. So it's important that drivers get some laps in and stay out of trouble. But more than anything, just get used, I think, in no small order to a really impressive circuit.
Yeah, and that message there from race control. Track is declared wet. It's damp in places. I think we're going to see some cars go out for a bit of a reconnaissance lap, see what it's like, and maybe then come in box. Another 5-10 minutes. I think the track will be pretty quick, but it might be a bit risky just to pound around for the first 10 minutes. So let's see. But this is the last chance for teams to really dial in the car before qualifying, which is so important here. The Super Pole element. If you can get in the top 20 of qualifying to get into Super Pole, it really can make a difference. The first few hours of your race being in front of 74 other cars.
Now there you can see number 11 Aston Martin, or you were looking at Cesar Gazzo, Cesar Gazzo, Frederic Jousset, Bernard de Sousa, Sebastian Alvarez, Sergio Sette Camara's car. There Sean Gallard at the wheel of 991 BMW, part of the Paradigm competition team. Aston Martin coming here as winners last year, and the winning trio reunited, looking to be the only second back-to-back winners in the history of the event. Trying to win it 2 years on the bounce is very, very difficult indeed. Partly because of, I suppose, these days the BOP of a car is scrutinised far more, partly because of luck, and partly because we've got 75 cars this year, so making your own luck is all well and good, but then you've got to make sure that you don't get involved in anybody else's dramas.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the most competitive 24-hour race in the world.
Exodus green.
75 GT3 cars, yes, across 5 classes, and we'll touch on that more later, but the competition is just so high, and that's why we always refer to it as 24 sprint races within this 24 hours, because you have to, as a driver, just give it all. You can't stay off curbs, you can't try and manage your gearbox, manage your brakes, because someone won't do that and will get to the end.
Just information
anyway.
from race control to all teams. The track has been declared wet. We just have some small patches that are still damp, but other than that, I think it should be okay for the remainder of the session.
And the voice you just heard is that of the race director, Niels Vittich. He came to GT World Challenge Europe as our race director at the end of last season, so this is the first time he's been in charge of a 24 Hours of Spa, and looking forward to it. So he is in charge as the cars are out on track. So there, number 65 Ford Mustang, ready to venture out on circuit, one of the two Haupt Racing Team cars. Salman Ovega, Romain Andriolo, Finn Wiebelhaus and David Schumacher drive that car, which runs in silver. The 64 entry is going to be in Pro. As you can see, Salman Ovega is at the wheel, and now with the wiper on. Number 33, Aston Martin, the Verstappen.com car, Thierry Vermeulen at the wheel goes through. Number 58, McLaren, ready to venture out. That car is Adam Smalley, Frederick Schandorf, Dean McDonald and Louis Pret. And it is one of the cars that runs within the Gold Cup. We have not only Pro and Gold and Silver and Bronze, but Pro-Am, which is only ever for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. So another competitive class within the race to keep an eye on as well. Right, those damp patches I think are going to dry out, and right now you don't want to be a hero and get up onto a wet and slippery curb, do you?
No, definitely not. Track temp's 24.5 degrees, so it's going to dry quickly. The only thing the teams and drivers will be considering is we still have a 20-25% chance of rain from now until the end of qualifying. So there's a chance that qualifying could be similar conditions, so the drivers will want to get a feel of that and how does their car feel on those conditions. I expect these cars to be in their full dry setup, and the only sort of question mark, which dry setup? Is it going to be their quali trim, potentially a bit racier, a bit pointier on the front end, or is it going to be their race setup, a bit more docile so the drivers are happy for 24 hours? That's probably the only difference between these setups across the field, I would say, right now.
Just had a look in the pit lane at Mirko Bortolotti's Lamborghini, which therefore prompts me to mention the pit lane. If you are regular viewers of the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, you'll be familiar with the fact that we link the two pit lanes together. So there's the Formula One pits and here, just on the left as you look, the endurance pits, all fed into one. So you pit coming out of the chicane and you rejoin the circuit. Here, coming up Radion, you're looking at number 46 BMW. Welcome back to World Challenge Europe, Valentino Rossi, and double winner of the event, René Rast, and former Grand Prix racer Kevin Magnussen, and it is Valentino at the wheel.
Yeah, interestingly, they've simplified their dashboard from the last time we ran on board with one of those M4 GT3s. There was a lot more numbers running across the top there. They've definitely simplified it. Gear number, always the most important to the driver. You can see Rossi here coming down the hill into Brussels. Deceptively steep, this braking downhill. The car always wants to break free on the rear end. There's that dash I was talking about, that big number 2 on the centre. That's just his gear. Speed underneath, it's always a bit irrelevant, the speed, because it is going to be what it is. And then the coloured boxes in the top, I assume, are traction control, ABS and map settings. Diving down the hill now into Pouan. It's a very short break these days in a modern GT3. You jump off, let the car run out to the right, and you have a second apex. You can see those damp patches, slightly tentative on the exit curb. Like you said, David, they hold the water and the moisture and can be infinitely slippier. Into Piff Paff now. BMW, you see the snap of oversteer there, getting on top of the curb. The BMW, very good over curb usage. Valentino pretty calm with his hands. He's not wanting to put too much steering input on the way into corners.
But he's lost this lap already for track limit offences at turn 4. So it might look good here, but one tiny little mistake or running wide earlier on in the lap negates anything.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge problem in qualifying. The amount of traffic, you're always going to be hampered on a lap. So if you throw away a lap because the track limit's so early on as well at the top of Eau Rouge, that really hurts. But watch us into Pouan. We see track limits on the way in and the way out here at Blanchemont, but all good for Valentino at the moment. He's actually got a good amount of space. I expect the engineer to be actually saying, big gap behind, if you need space, back up, because there's a few cars in front of him.
You can tell it's the Rossi car because of the familiar Dayglow yellow, but it's far more BMW-ised than when we last had Valentino Rossi within GT World Challenge Europe. It's not a regular entry, but it's great to have him back onto the grid as the session has an hour then. It's a chance for us to have a look at some of the interesting entries, many of which are coming purely to do the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa or are from Intercontinental GT Challenge, so not regulars within GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. Right now, Gilles Magnus with his Audi has gone fastest, 2 minutes 20.8. Well, they were doing 2:17s earlier on in the day in the dry. It was the number 9 Boots and VDS Mercedes of Michael Grenier, Maxi Goetz and Maxime Martin that was the fastest. Talking of cars dropping into the event, there is one of them, the 00 Tatsuya Kasayoka Kamui Kobayashi Nobutera Taniguchi driven Good Smile Racing Mercedes. Is there a friendlier team name than Good Smile Racing?
Yeah, I wonder if it's always the same story behind the visor. And yes. Yeah, it's always good. And yeah, it's always good to get different parts of the world coming into this race. You can see the overspeed the Audi has, though, such an important corner, Eau Rouge, for this long Kemmel straight. And one small lift off the throttle there hurts you 4 or 5 kilometers, then haunts you all the way till he hits the brakes now into Le Combe. You can see it's pretty dry at the top of the hill here, but outside our commentary box, the pit straight is still pretty wet, and that's a very Spa thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Kobayashi is yet to do a proper flying lap, so the former Grand Prix racer, these days, of course, Toyota Gazoo Racing Europe's team principal, stepping into a very different brand, but the Japanese driver playing himself back into Spa, into GT3 machinery, and coming downhill. As ever, and this is a conversation to be had when we end up at Suzuka for IGTC in September, or Macau for FIA GT World Cup, for example. But there's something about the livery that cars teams from Asia operate. They're always that bit different from European colour schemes and liveries and designs.
Yeah, they're louder, aren't
Yeah.
they? They're more expressive. I think the Europeans seem to stick within their box of design, and they put some colours in some pretty similar places, whereas the Asian teams always go wild, especially some of those Macau liveries as well. The one-offs where they feel they can go even louder than something like this, which is always impressive.
Sunglasses will be provided. So Good Smile Racing's Mercedes AMG, therefore, with the silver-graded Taniguchi, gold Katsuoka, and platinum, of course, for Kamui Kobayashi, who is behind the wheel of the car right now. This is, as I say, not necessarily about chasing lap times, but it is of value, and in real terms, you don't get that much running really before qualifying. Yes, there's Super Pole tomorrow as well, which you've got to get into via being in the top 20. But you know, the emphasis is on the race itself. An hour and a half or 2 hours rather earlier on of free practice, then an hour of pre-qualifying. But when you've got to cycle that through 4 drivers, you're not in the car for hours on end, are you?
No, and the problem, the outlap and the in-laps are so long as well. So actually timed laps are very, very rare. And I've done the 24-hour here 4 times, and sometimes you get to the race, you go, I've done 11 flying laps before the start of the race, and you just kind of have to suck it up and see how it goes. And yeah, the cycling through the drivers is difficult. Teams have different mentalities. Do you give the most time to your weakest driver, because of course that will make you stronger in the race, or do you give a bit more to your strongest driver to try and get yourself into Super Pole to elevate your starting position, to sort of minimise the risk of getting caught up in those midfield accidents? Just with 75 cars, the closer you are to the front, those risks just drop as soon as you get inside the top 20, it seems.
Now that, number 34, Aston Martin, is out of the Valkenhorst stable. Christian Cronjes, former winner of the event, David Pittard, Enrique Chavez are the drivers, and that effectively is a worked car. You've got 3 factory drivers there. The Mercedes brand, I think there are 8 Vantages this weekend. It's a record of Aston Martins on the grid, and many of those engineers were at Le Mans, then they had to do Nürburgring, then they've come here, they've been working sort of 40 hours in a row to make sure all the cars are prepped after the demands of the Nordschleife last week. So we talk about drivers doing these events on the bounce, but the engineers as well. And we've got 7 drivers that will have done all 3 24-hour races back to back. But of them, I know we were looking at a different Aston, but it's the relevant point. A hat tip to Mathieu Drudi, last year's winner, because he's done Le Mans, Nürburgring, Spa, and next week he's back to do 25 hours in the Fun Cup.
Loves it, doesn't he? That's the only way you could say about it. But yeah, going back to those 24-hour races, always as a driver you felt guilty because you were the last to arrive and the first to leave.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the engineers, the mechanics, the hospitality, the PR, the hours that go into it is always difficult. And the other difficulty is the difference of regulations between them all. So the teams have to be fully sharp on what's happening at each given race. So they'll be just getting their eye in. And the one that I think everyone's got their eyes on is the maximum stint time in the race, 60 minutes. It is rounded down, so you could pit at 60 minutes and 59 seconds, and you're okay. That's not a penalty. But you need to maximize that every time to make sure you don't add a 25th pit stop. That's going to be the hard bit. It does get extended to 65 if there's a full course yellow or safety car within that stint. So you'll win some of that time back, of course. But that is going to be a huge strategy point for all of these teams.
It is indeed, especially as one of those stops has to be 5 minutes, the so-called technical pit stop to do discs and pads. This is Christian Cronjes then trying and succeeding into the chicane to wriggle up the inside of the Porsche there, the Wright Motorsports car, the American entry of Adam Adelson, Tom Sargent, Elliott Skier. New to the event, new to the circuit, but Christian Cronjes, who flies under the radar a little bit, doesn't he? He's been very, very successful in the VLN and back in, 2018, Spa 24-hour winner, but maybe doesn't quite get the recognition he deserves. This is Tom Sargent then in the very smart Porsche, regulars in GT World Challenge America, coming onto the global stage, if you like, with an outing in Europe, and therefore, by dint of Porsche being here, eligible for IGTC points for the brand as well. and that colour scheme works very well. Whisper it, it's reminiscent of early Team Lotus, but it looks good on a Porsche.
Yeah, it really does suit it, and yeah, hugely successful team, Wright Motorsport, for many years now. Good to see them at Spa. Slight dive bomb in the end by the Aston Martin, actually went deep into the chicane. You can see the Porsche scrolling under braking there, so maybe the track isn't as dry as we potentially thought. You can see that Audi's going to be a bit of a problem for this Porsche. Maybe gets out the way, does very well actually. So just starting to get his eye in, Sargent. You can tell that just by how much the Aston caught him in sector 3 on the previous lap to how well he's stuck with him so far through sector 1 and through Speaker's Corner, now diving down the hill. He'll just be getting his eye in. What balance has he got from the outside? Balance looks good. All we've seen is that snap of oversteer under braking, but I think that would be track condition rather than setup of that car.
The flashing red light is because the track has been declared wet. It's effectively a rain light. You've got one of the Audis in the background. Audi not expecting to be challenging for outright success, but in classes, very definitely they could be on the money. The Porsche at the moment being hustled along, I think I'm right in saying, by Tom Sargent, who, even though it's an American entry, number 120 Porsche, Tom is from Australia. He's a Formula Ford Australia champion, comes from New South Wales. He's been racing in GT World Challenge Australia before going to the States, and a very experienced GT campaigner these days. So that's the 120 Porsche, looking good, sounding good. And Porsche coming here as a brand with 8 victories outright. This car is one of those that is going to be running in the Gold Cup. Might be a stretch to ask it to win outright, but if it's a demanding race, if it's a race of attrition, just getting to the finish is going to be vital.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a scalp for these non-pro class cars to see how high up the order they can finish in every pro car you get behind you. Feels like a little victory in itself, as we can see that Ziggo Sport Tempesta Ferrari had a strong Le Mans at times, but the overall result isn't what they would have wanted. But of course they got that Le Mans entry from their success in GT World Challenge, and yeah, Chris Froggatt especially has got so quick in the last few years. We used to see him as a decent silver, but now he's one of the fastest silvers out there, and a thoroughly nice guy as well.
And interestingly, Lorenzo Petresi switches to the car. Remember, they did have Stefano Gattuso earlier on in the season, and they've had one or two other driver shuffles, but one co-driver in particular ended up with lots of track limit penalties elsewhere. So Lorenzo Petresi has found a berth in the car this weekend. Son of Riccardo Petresi, Grand Prix racer, of course, but ex of Audi and the Tresor Attempto team. Lorenzo Petresi, he's going to be one to watch this weekend as he gets more familiar with that car.
Yeah, that cut to the onboard gave me a bit of a fright as it was stationary, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Petresi gets on, because he's coming in to a pretty sorted lineup, so he's got to kind of find his place in the food chain, and you would say Chiva is a strong lead driver, and Petresi there is going to wingman him, so they'll be giving Chiva the most amount of new tyres to try and help him get his eye in for qualifying and then maybe into Superpole. But of course, qualifying being an aggregate of times, it's so important that all drivers perform on that regard, but you've always got half an eye on Superpole as well in case you do get there. How can you extract the best out of your driver there?
So Chris Froggatt at the wheel of the Ziggo Sport Ferrari, 56th currently, for what that offers you. There are still quite a few that haven't done a proper lap time. Thierry Vermeulen, number 33 Aston Martin, was one of the first out, but has spent time in and out of the pit lane. Fastest, perhaps to nobody's great surprise, is Raffaele Marciello, who's another previous winner of the event. 2 minutes 17.589 now. That's only about 4/10 shy of what they were doing earlier on in the day when it was bone dry.
Yeah, we see this top speed through Blanchimont on the corner. We've just gone through there in the 93. McLaren fast at the moment with Loke, and then 3 BMWs in the top 5. So BMW good straight line speed, so not surprising to see Marciello up there. Froggatt really opening up that last corner. So he's obviously looking for a fast run out, starting a lap now. It's not a bad lap he's just done, but he's obviously feeling the car's in the window, and he wants to maximise that corner speed exit. So all the way down here, the delta would have been gaining, down to first gear, hard on the throttle, traction control active there, and then you dive down the hill, and this really starts to speed up very quickly. 260 kilometers an hour on entry. Got to use as much curb as you can on the left, much curb as you can on the right, and then as much as you can on the left without doing track limits. And that was tight, and that's going to be the name of the game for these drivers, is maximizing the track width there without getting any track limits.
And there are extra cameras placed for the monitoring track limit purpose at various parts of the racetrack. So you can't say, no, it wasn't me, because the camera will have the evidence. There, coming up towards us, is number 991 BMW, one of the two Paradigm competition cars. This is the Sean Galile, Toby Sowery, Jake Dennis, Darren Lung entry from the Bronze Cup. You're riding on board 991 right now. And this is the run out of Les Combes. Finally, at this point, the road starts to drop downhill. So Sean Galile, who races with Darren Lung in the World Endurance Championship, hustles the BMW downhill. He's raced here many times, whether it's been in Formula 3, Formula 2, or in sports cars. Whoa, had to fight it there, didn't he, coming out of Speaker's Corner. Speed building. And Sean Galile comes down towards Pouan, throws the car in, but this is looking a real handful as it snaps sideways. He's way out wide over the curb. He managed to hold it, but this does not look a happy car.
I don't want to drive that car for 24 hours, that's for sure. The rear of it's just way too lively on entry, on apex, on exit. You're going to have to do a change on that setup-wise, and quite a big one in my opinion. It's going to be a real roll bar to try and get some weight over the rear axle, maybe take some rake out of the car, so lower the rear suspension, because at the moment that's going to eat the rear tyres. The only thing potentially is they're high on fuel and on a used set of tyres to see if they could double stint in the race, but I can't see that being an overall strategy. And you can see the lap time is not particularly happy as well on the sectors below.
About the only good thing of this for Sean Galile with an evil handling car is that the onboard lap, and he's still fighting it through Blanchimont, he's now being shown to the team in the garage. So if he comes back in and says, oh, the car's really lively, they go, yeah, Sean, yeah. But now they can see it. They know exactly what he's feeling and talking about. I
think the insurance company will be on the phone to Parody and saying, can you make a setup change? Because you know that excess we agreed on, it's going about to double if it stays like this. But yeah, you made a few setup changes on the wheel. I could see him changing the TC. Obviously, the higher you put the TC, you get the outside of it through Pouan. This is where it snapped again. And we couldn't get back to the second apex because of that snap of oversteer. So, yeah, we've given enough evidence to the Paradigm team there that that car is lively to drive, to say the least.
So, one of the other drivers to keep an eye to this weekend for Ferrari, Arthur Leclerc. Ganel Longy is in the pits for us with him.
Arthur Leclerc, first ever time racing the 24 hours of Spa. How excited are you with this first sessions going on?
It's good. I mean, I'm happy. A lot of people coming here as well, so the mood is really great, and yeah, I can't wait to start the race.
How did the free practice go this morning?
Was good. I think there is some small issue that we need to fix in the balance. That's why there is free practice. So yeah, we are testing it at the moment, and hopefully we'll try to improve the car in a good direction. Any
feedback from your teammates regarding the track conditions right now?
No, I could see a bit on the TV. It's looking that it's going drier and drier. Still a bit far from the lap time that we should do. I think the track is quite dry. It's for everyone the same. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thanks, Ganel. So, Arthur Leclerc concentrating on his racing, of course, this weekend, but there might be half an eye cast over to Austria, where his brother is busy, and he will be at Silverstone in a week's time. But Ferrari coming here as well as a brand that's won the event in the past. 4 victories have fallen to Ferrari since the 24 Hours of Spa began in 1923, and they were very close to winning last year. If you recall the drama that befell Alessandro Pierguidi coming into the pits to find a broken down car. Hugo Cook's Lamborghini had expired in front of him, and it just turned everything upside down. So you could argue that Ferrari is owed a win after last year. Antonio Fuoco then, having been, as ever, a star in whatever type of car he drives, really, whether it's in the WEC or in GT3 trim, he's always one to watch. And I suspect if this car gets into to Superpole, I should say, tomorrow night, he's going to be another potential for pole position.
Yeah, it's obviously a very strong car across the board, and that's what's interesting as well. When they get into Superpole, which driver do they nominate? And that's a tough decision across the team, because a lot of these pros are within a tenth, 2 tenths maximum. They sometimes prefer a circuit, prefer a fuel load or a tyre load. Obviously in qualifying it's low fuel, new tyres, so that goes out the window. But it's a real sort of mark of you as a driver if the team asks you, are you willing to do it? Because it's a bit like taking a penalty in football. It's the pressure. Do you handle the pressure, or do you crack? And that's some drivers are better at it, some drivers are worse at it. And so you could be the quicker driver, but the team just feel that you've made a few mistakes under pressure, you might not be the shot for qualifying. And it hurts. It really hurts you as a driver when you see your car heading down. Super Bowl is brilliant, but it's not you in it. It's a mixed emotion, to say the least.
Now, the fastest BMW is fastest outright. It's Jesse Krohn now at the wheel. You can see it there, the Rover Racing entry in the background. Jesse Krohn has relayed from Raffaele Marciello, so he's now taken over that car for the next part of this 1 hour session. What have we got? 38 minutes of it still remaining. And the BMW then powering its way out of Les Combes down towards Bruxelles. To the eye, it's getting brighter and drier and a little bit warmer. Certainly, it's had a lot of rain midday here, but the track now looking a lot better. Online, at least, still some damp patches at various points. Jesse Krohn then exploring all of this. Whether we get rain in the race remains to be seen, because you can never trust the weather at Spa, can you?
Yeah, driving here this morning, go all the way from Brussels airport, it's nice and dry. It's the summer, of course, it's going to be warm and dry.
Of course.
Get to Verviers, 20 k's down the road, still warm and dry. And then you just start to see the forest coming around you, and you see this mist just hanging there, and you're like, it can't be. And soon enough, you're into Spa, you're in Spa-Francorchamps village, and it's raining. Yep. And it has, we go on about it, this microclimate. It's the same forest that stretches all the way to the Nürburgring, of course, changes name on the border, but it is its own microclimate, and it's a nightmare for the teams to try and predict when they've got their weather radar out. Are we going to get rain in the next hour? You might as well flip a coin. That's how it feels half the time here.
Never mind the teams, I left my laundry out this morning. It's going to be wet through again. Jesse Krohn not improving on Raffaele Marciello's times in sectors, but he doesn't really need to. The car is already good enough to be at the top of the times, and for Jesse Krohn it's a chance now to just get a feel for the car in these drying conditions. And I suspect this is one that we're going to be talking about a lot. Rover Racing, of course, victorious going back to 2020 when the team ran Porsche and BMW that year, but it was the Porsche that won dramatically with a gearbox that was falling apart around Nick Tandy on his way to the line, and it was making horrible noises, but it just about got there. So at the moment you've got BMW, Ferrari, and fourth is the best of the Audis, and it's the Santalot-run Qatari Audi, as there is Mathieu Jaminet for the Dynamic GT team. Now this car surely is going to be one to watch, because not only have you got Mathieu Jaminet, you've got Matt Campbell and Bastien Bus, so that for Porsche is certainly a gun car.
Yeah, all three. And again, we go back to which one would you put in Super Pole out of those three. That's a hard one to call, and that is the strength of the lineup. But when you go through the entry list, see the 27 Audi running wide there. That's the car in fourth. That's what you can see. You've got a yellow flag in sector 1 at the moment, but we're so strong across, I would say, 15 to 16 pro cars. Yeah. It's really hard to call the winner, and I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is just yet as the red flag comes out. So yeah, all cars will slow down to 80 k's now. It's
coming out of Eau Rouge up Radion at turn 3, and a car stationary then. I fear it might be the Barwell number 76 Lamborghini that's not moving, or is it? No, it has.
Might be the Winwood.
Started moving again.
Winwood
right.
Mercedes.
81. Right.
Yeah, exactly that one. So it's right at the top of Eau Rouge. Interestingly, you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong, David. I'm sure you like it, but the livery of that car looks very similar to the one that the 2Cs team used here at Spa at the weekend, because they had an issue in testing where they had to use a replacement chassis. And just looking at the picture of that car, it was a very similar livery. So I'm sure the YouTube chat will tell me if I'm right or wrong on that one. But yeah, the 2Cs team here running the Aston Martin for Verstappen.com. In British GT, they run 2 Mercedes, and they had to source a spare car, and it looks similar to that. Okay. As you can see, a rear wing change going on. So if we stay on the shot, we'll be able to see if they're adding or taking away wing. So the rear wing will affix to those pylons, and the mechanic there taking out the bolt, the engineer will have said which position to go through. It looks pretty trimmed out at the moment, so pretty flat. So maybe they're looking to add a bit of more rear grip via the aerodynamics there. And it's hard here at Spa, because sector 1 is all about straight line speed, so you want low wing, and then sector 2 couldn't be more of an aero sector, so you want 2 different cars in back-to-back sectors. Sector 3 is more of a mix, but still probably leaning towards top speed these days. Now that Stavolo 2, T15, Blanchimont is easy flat, you only have a big break into the bus stop, and that's why the drivers love this circuit, because there's a mix of every single type of corner.
The timing screen relays the information. Car 81 stopped at T3, driver okay. There is Gabriele Piana, and that's a car that's not okay. So Gabriele, who's on double duty, GT3 and GT4, has clearly had a big moment and has found the tyre barrier, and straight away, that is a very damaged car, isn't it? Gabriele Piana, we know he's experienced. He's been a class winner here in the 24 Hours of Spa in the past. He's a champion of GT4 racing. He was the silver winner in 2020, but that Mercedes does not look good.
No, really doesn't. Whole front corner taken off it, and Eau Rouge has obviously been reprofiled many times, and the runoff extended more and more, but still not enough to stop the speed of these cars.
But I'm surprised that that's Piana that's had the moment, unless he got caught up with another car, because Gabriele is, as we know, very experienced. That car is also driven by Renat Salikov, who is another class winner here in the past, Dan Arrow, who was the silver champion last year, and Marvin Dienst, who again is a very successful GT racer. So on paper, that's a good, strong lineup. They are second in the championship in bronze as well in the Endurance Cup, as Matteo Cairoli watches on as he awaits the Mann-Filter Mercedes to come back. There it is, and the team ready to do whatever is required on that, with the feedback from Lucas Auer, who is behind the wheel of the car right now. Fascinating fact 37 is that Mauro Engel, who is the third driver of the car, had his first British Formula 3 championship win at Spa. So happy memories of the place when he was a single-seater racer before all of the GT success. And again, that is a car that I think a lot of people are tipping as a race winner.
Yeah, it's been really strong this year over a lap, and then struggled a bit more in a race pace, as we see the Retronic car making a setup change there. The front bumper off the Porsche normally means they're doing a splitter angle adjustment. So we're looking at the rear wing. This time we're looking at a splitter change there, and they can change the angle of attack, essentially, of how much front downforce the car's making. But with it being a whole splitter change, it looks like more damage. But they both look equally damaged on the bottom. Those skid marks are quite normal for here, so maybe that one's preset at a new angle, so the mechanics only have to attach 4 bolts on that splitter to the Porsche and it's ready to go. But yeah, the Retronic Porsche team being very well versed in this.
Now the clock carries on ticking while we have this red flag, so again there's a frustration for the teams that they are losing track time right now as that splitter is attached to the car, but the teams, the drivers, wanting the opportunity to be out there. The good news is, though, that 81 Mercedes has been put onto the flatbed. The tyre barrier is being attended to as well. Of course, this is where the GT World Challenge Europe officials work with the local race official team here to coordinate how long it might take or what barrier damage needs doing, who is the best and nearest crew to go and attend to that. Mercedes has obviously hit the barrier and spun around because there's big damage on the front and more on the back as well. Yeah,
and I'm worried for that car in terms of chassis-wise. The front chassis legs that come from the front bulkhead forward are pretty prone to getting sort of tweaked, and as soon as they're tweaked, that car is done for. And yeah, a chassis change, if they've got a spare one, needs approval as well. As we go into the Retronic garage there, and that's Sven Muller giving some feedback on the car, and right smile. Looked a bit frustrated to start with, then turned to a happy man. So hopefully that's the mood he's in.
Go back 3 years, 4 years. Kenny Habul, the Australian driver, had a big off on the other side of Eau Rouge and ended up getting a new car overnight. And even having gone through all of that, still wasn't fit enough to race. Adam Osika was drafted in to replace. They won the class. Adam Osika, who is the man behind the Get Speed team. So it's not the first time we've seen crumpled Mercedes at Raidillon. Louis Pret ready to go back out in number 58 McLaren in the Garage 59 stable, and half the session has now elapsed, so we are just about at the halfway point now.
Yeah, so there's a lot of drivers that haven't sat in the car yet, and that's the Stella Corvette with a new livery on, slightly more striking than its stealth livery had been running up until now. Lachlan Hannafin was in the Mercedes at Spa, and was quick, and I was impressed with his pace there, and so were the team.
Yeah, I think that was Olivier Hart behind the wheel, looking at the fact that David Hart, his father, was leaning in. Jules Gounon's got the paintbrush out for a new helmet with a sort of Muttley character painted on the side. Double winner of the event, Jules Gounon, and Lukas Stoltz, Fabian Schiller, the other drivers that came close to a win at Monza, but for a loose wheel.
Yeah, it was gutting for them, wasn't it? They were in the dominant position and just problem leaving the pits on that stop, and the wheel coming loose really robbed him of a result. As you can see, the marshal was hard at work there, and the telehandler just getting the tyre wall back into position. Looks like the conveyor belt's just getting a few new nuts and bolts to fix it up, and I'd say we're probably going to be going back to green in the next 5 minutes.
Alex Malikin for Pure Racing. This is another car that's well worth watching because Alex Malikin, who is silver these days, shares with Richard Lietz, Le Mans class winner, and Thomas Preining, who again has a great pedigree in Porsches. As a Carrera Cup Germany champion, as a DTM champion, another very, very fast driver indeed. You're looking there at the conveyor belting being put into place, and of course we can't restart the session until that's done, partly because that's pit exit as well. It's all happening at the very top of Raidillon, which prompts a question. We might touch on this during the race as well. Your preference, top pits or endurance pits?
Top pits.
Because?
There's a toilet in each garage.
Ever the pragmatist.
Yeah, I've done 2 in each actually. The endurance pits are better as a performance driver because your tyres are hotter leaving pit exit, so it's easier to get straight on it. But you are on a hill, the garages are smaller. As you can see, some of the, I think that's the driver cooling ducting just loose there. I don't know if they're adjusting it or it's broken free, but yeah, it just feels a lot more relaxed in the top pits because they are just so much bigger.
So that's the Lion Speed number 80 entry. You saw Ricky Perra, the very successful Italian, at the wheel of it, class winner at Le Mans this year. Ricardo Feller, Patrick Kolb, Gabriel Rindone are the other drivers. We've touched on Augusto Farfus as well as the winner of the Nürburgring 24 Hours last week. Ganel Longy is with him.
Augusto Farfus, busy couple of days with the win at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring last weekend. How tired are you?
Well, no, I'm well recovered now. Nürburgring is behind of us. Now we are full focus on the Spa. It is a very difficult race, especially physically. So we are trying to get as much rest as possible coming from Le Mans, Nürburgring, and now here. But it's a great honor to be able to take part in the 3 biggest races in the world.
Looks like you're keeping the momentum going since you're leading the session.
Yeah, well, I think this first session, it is all about track position. We waited to go out on slick, so I think we are the cars on the second, let's say, later on tires. Lello got a good lap, also good track position. So, yeah, we are leading, but it's way too early in the weekend to celebrate anything. That is quali later on coming, which will be very important. But more than quali, I think there is 24 hours of race, which is not going to be easy.
Thanks a lot, Augusto. See you later.
So the Brazilian driver, very much part of the BMW family for a number of years now, having started off in touring cars in Alfa Romeos when he came from Formula 3000. Augusto Farfus then yet to get in the car in this session. Track work almost completed, but we're going to have just over 20 minutes, a little bit over 20 minutes when we get back up and running. So there will be a frustration for some of the teams, a run plan taken out of the window here, and then we get the cars back out again this evening at 9:15 local time for the 4 parts of qualifying. Of course, Pro only has 3 drivers, but all the other cars eligible for 4. There's one in the Gold Cup that's only doing it with 3, interestingly, which is the Verstappen.com Racing, Harry King, Chris Lallam, Thierry Vermeulen entry. But everybody else in the other class is doing it with 4, and hence 4 parts of qualifying. Now, Nicolo Sciorro is ready to go back out for Kessel Racing. We're talking about brash liveries. How does that constitute brash?
Yeah, that's something I would have designed as a younger...
With your eyes closed?
Male, yeah, I guess. And early days of preschool and nursery when you're allowed that big roll of paper on the floor and you go wild with all elements of painting tools. It's... yeah, going to be
Speedy Carrot. Now this needs investigation. Ganel, go and find out for us what Speedy Carrot is all about.
I think each driver has their nickname on it. I don't know which one is Speedy Carrot, but there's something Fuma as well. So that must be Fumanelli on the front wing as well. So yeah, some hidden jokes going on there, which we obviously need to unearth.
We'll unravel over the course of 24 hours. I have every confidence. So the tyre barrier almost done. And the telehandler will flee. Let's look down from the drone for a moment and go past VSR and then Barwell and then the Grasser pits. And then you get to Haupt Racing Team with the Fords. Then up towards Paradigm. That's where they are. I've been looking for them all day. Paradigm's BMWs next to Rover Racing, who've got 2. One in the familiar colours, one in the sort of bottle green colour scheme. And then more BMWs. There is the WRT fleet, all good to go, including the Treble 7 Almanar Racing entry. And they are at the pit out end of the Formula One pit. So they jump straight into the car, blast away, almost hairpin right, and then you down the endurance pits.
Yeah, I'd say that's the ultimate, because you've got the luxury of the top pits, but then you're at the end of it for your tyre temp and getting out on track. And WRT have historically always been there as well, so they've got dibs on that and they've kept it.
And it's their regular place, as you say, familiar setup for them in the pit lane. So more drivers getting themselves ready. Simon Balsan, you had a quick look at another of the Belgian drivers, number 28 Audi, the Haas RT car that he shares with Xavier Knauf, Greg Servet and Stephen Palette. McLaren's here not only in terms of CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, but also 2 McLaren Trophy races, one tomorrow, one Saturday morning. Biggest ever grid as well for McLaren Trophy, so McLaren's featuring quite prominently. And, of course, runners-up in the last endurance race in Europe at Monza. So McLaren perhaps flying under the radar. Here's another of them. Treble 1, the CSA racing car, Arthur Rougier's team that he drives for with Jim Plus, Simon Gachet and James Kell. Again, that's one of the Gold Cup entries. Simon Gachet brought the car in.
Yeah, and probably my standout performers of the year, I'd say that CSA team. New to McLaren this year, obviously very quick with the Audis, but to jump straight in and be straight on it, I've been very impressed with both of their cars. So we see WRT here doing a slight change on the front left corner. You can see a whole new damper on the floor there. So I don't know if they're doing a spring change, and this is the quickest way to do it on the BMW. I can't think of any other reason, unless they've got a damper that's gone down, and the telemetry can let them know these days, even with driver feedback, damper going down is a big problem handling-wise. So looks like they've been lucky, potentially, with this red flag. While they would have been off track, everyone else pounding round, they managed to get that car fixed and looking like it's going to go back out as we look to go back to green as those track workers scramble clear.
They do indeed. I said we were going to be a little over 20 minutes. Well, we're at 22 now, so we can't be far off getting things back underway. Jim Pla having a word. You can see here, it always feels more cramped in the endurance pits, but the pit garages are to requisite standards. Let's go back to Speedy Carrot. Ganel Langy can tell us more about these nicknames, one hopes. Ganel.
Nicolo, let's talk a little bit about the car design of your Ferrari number 8. What does this design come from?
So the design comes from our friend Marco Bonanomi, which is a Le Mans LMP1 runner-up and podium maker, and he's a very close friend of us, and he's also into this artwork, street art, and he pleased us with some color this year with this funny livery, and we have some very cool details on it. If you look at it closer, we have some details which bring some dynamic into the team, some names, some phrase that it's pretty funny for us. So it's pretty cool to have this put together and bring some color in the paddock.
I just saw the Speedy Carrot name on it. What does it mean?
Speedy Carrot is not about myself, but it's about Nico Rossi. It's about the ginger hair. So actually his girlfriend used to call him as a nickname Speedy Carrot. So we brought it into the car. And then we have also the part about Fuma, of course, Fumanelli. And they used to call me Nick the Quick, but you know, it's just something to have a little bit of fun, you know.
Thanks a lot, Nicolo. Thank you.
Well done, Ganel. I'm impressed by all that. I never knew Marco Bonanomi was a graphic designer as well. Amazing what you learn, isn't it?
Well, not just a fast driver then, right?
Quite. Speedy Carrot then for his ginger hair. I hope touring car racer Josh Cook's listening to this. Now, this doesn't look quite so promising for 65 Mustang, does it?
Oh, that's a lot of bodywork off, and I'm surprised they're still in pit lane, because in pit lane you can only have 4 mechanics touching the car. The amount of work they're doing, I'm surprised they've not gone into their box, but that's because it's pre-qualifying, right? They go into the box, they will get disqualified because they will break parc fermé, as this is a pre-qualifying session that if we lost qualifying. So I think that's the logic there from the Mustang team.
Although Jan Mardenborough's Mustang is the fastest going up through Eau Rouge towards Radion. That's the part of the racetrack that they're just coming through now. Far reduced speed coming out of the pit lane. People trying to get the warmth back into the tyres. 248 clicks going through there. That's brave stuff.
Yeah, it really is. My worry there, if you saw pit exit where the Mercedes of Pian had gone off, all the water that was in the tyre wall was actually now on the pit exit road.
Yeah.
So these drivers will be leaving. They'll be off the pit limiter way before that. And suddenly going to hit this water just to the left of our shot at the moment. That will definitely liven a few of them up this evening.
Had a quick look a moment ago at the Boots and VDS cars, which have gone to a kind of retro Boots and VDS or Mark VDS style livery for early days of what was then the Blancpain Endurance Series, when it was Mark VDS versus WRT in Audis, and WRT now big for BMW. The Winwood Racing run Mansfield to Mercedes door closes. Lucas Al staying behind the wheel, although he's not going anywhere.
No, it looks like they're just waiting for a bit of space. So they'll cool the tyres, bolt them on, drop it and go. And at the moment you can see everyone is very eager to get out, and here come the tyres. So that car will be released in roughly 30 seconds, and they've timed that so the leaders that are going into Sector 3 now will still be behind them. Sector 3 taking around 38 seconds. So they'll be looking to get out in front of the first cars on track as you get this great shot from the highest point of the lap here at the end of the Camel Straight.
The exit of Les Combes is a wonderful part of the racetrack because it's the highest point. After that, you start going downhill. Having run around it like again last night, trust me, it's the most wonderful feeling. Finally, you can drop downhill. And it was very, very hot here yesterday, really humid as well. Today, we've had now the sun shining, we've had heavy rain, we've had a typical Spa day. Number 99 there, the Tresor Attempto Audi. That car of Ezequiel Perez Compact, Philippe Denez, Alberto Di Folco and Alex Arca. Alberto Di Folco at the wheel. And Audi last night at the driver's briefing presentation inducted into the 24 Hours Hall of Fame, along with Pirelli, along with Thierry Tassin, along with Marc Duet. And there was pride on Audi's part to receive the award, but tinged also with a bit of sadness that they weren't here challenging for another outright win, and that Audi Sport Customer Racing isn't the powerhouse that it used to be. And you know, these cars can still deliver. Remember how well Ivan Klimenko went to be second overall at Zandvoort in Sprint Cup. But I know Audi is focused on Formula One and things change in the world, but it does seem sad after so many years of looking at Audi as potential race winners that, okay, they could win classes this weekend, and fair play to the teams, but the world's moved on.
Yeah, I'm not sure the world's a better place for it. Not having an Audi in the Pro class feels wrong to even say out loud, and we've said it a fair bit this year, but that is the most common GT3 car that's ever been produced, and quite rightly so. Audi customer support was second to none with the product they developed and delivered, but the customer service that they then gave to those teams. And I've raced in Audi for a couple of years, about 10 years ago. They were second to none. And the great thing they did to our sport was raise the game of everyone else. Everyone else had to match Audi. And I think they are one of the main reasons of the success of GT3 was their ethos, but also the money they put into this project. And yeah, it's a shame to see them leaving.
But they were also really good customer-friendly cars. They were durable, yes, but they didn't frighten off an AM. You know, there were some cars that were designed around a Pro, and an AM got in and really struggled. But the Audi recognised the customer base straight away. Alberto Di Folco, you're looking at, very accomplished Lamborghini racer a decade plus ago before he came through Italian GT ranks into World Challenge, and this car in the Silver Cup is going to be one to watch, no question about it, as it heads now into Blanchimont. You can still see where the damp patches are, can't you? But Gabriele Piano will tell you all about damp patches, seeing that he got caught out by one at Eau Rouge.
Yeah, shame for him, and I just can't see that car being ready for qualifying the big one. So then straight away, one small potential mistake has meant you're going to start 75th before this Spa 24-hour race. So the guilt he'll be feeling upon his shoulders, I'm sure the team will try and keep him upbeat about that, because they will still be focused on the race. And of course there will be so much action, they'll be able to fight their way through on pure pace and strategy. But that is the worst possible start to your weekend.
So Audi drops downhill, Alberto Di Folco at the wheel. Still the fastest car is the number 98 BMW that's ventured back out again after that lengthy stoppage. And with 75 cars on the entry this weekend, it's always going to be a busy racetrack. And one of the pages that we have on timing and scoring is of each car around the circuit, and there is barely a break in the traffic. You know, if you get 6 cars lengths, you're doing well right now.
Yeah, and this is one of the cars that's almost got the biggest gap behind it, the 21 Aston Martin. And again, the engineers will be helping the drivers a lot with that positioning, but as soon as you've sort of pulled the pin out of the grenade and you're pushing hard, that's what you've got to do. And at the moment we can see that Kessel 8 car holding up this 21 Aston Martin. Looks like there's 3 or 4 car lengths, but that will just be in the dirty air there for Kobe Powell's, as he's trying to get the momentum to get the overtake done. The next real overtaking opportunity in to T12, Piff Paff, the next right-hander, and after that you really have to wait all the way for the bus stop chicane. And again, this is going to be the story of the race. This is all good race knowledge. If you get stuck behind a Ferrari, what's the dirty air like? And that's where the top drivers earn their money. They understand what the dirty air is like from all the cars out there. With 10 different manufacturers, they all produce their own lap time in a different way, and the aerodynamics are of course so key of that. You follow some cars and it's horrible to follow. It actually looks like to me now Powell's has backed off and he's looking to get a clear lap on his next flyer.
Kobe Powell's, who, like his father, began in rallycross at Koen Powell's, and Kobe in his second year driving for the Belgian ComTU racing team, which made its name really in touring cars with Audis in TCR, as well as running Audis eventually in GT racing. But when Audi announced its departure, quickly switched to Aston Martin with great success. Wonderful shot that, looking down from the drone at the chicane with the extra swirly paint these days, a bit like Paul Ricard, to act as a retardation facility if anyone goes offline, and the national colours at the chicane. As over the line then goes here the number 21 Aston. So Nico Bart, Jamie Day, Kobe Powell's, Xavier Marsden, a hugely experienced Xavier Marsden, are 4 drivers of that car. We've got just over 12.5 minutes to go of this pre-qualifying session, the irony of which is by the time the flag comes out, the road will be at its driest.
Yeah, it'll be at its best, won't it? And this 21 ComTU Aston has its sister car, the 7 car behind it, obviously winner of the race last year, Matteo Drudi behind the wheel. So Drudi will be following here, but on the last lap was nearly a second quicker. Of course, Powell's backed off a bit, so some of that will be down to that. But yeah, you can see the teams maybe working together to see if a slipstream can help and maybe do something in qualifying, but I doubt that with the short qualifying sessions we have.
In the background, you can see number 27 Audi still 4th in the times. Here, number 4 is George Kurtz, the man behind CrowdStrike, sharing with Ian James, Colin Braun, Nick Katzberg, who's been an outright winner and a double class winner. The car is the CrowdStrike by SPS, entered Mercedes AMG, and looking to see where that car is right now in the times. It's quite a long way down, I fear. Yeah, 71st, so it actually falls off our 2 pages of timing and scoring. But George Kurtz, once again, through his business, putting support to the 24 Hours of Spa and coming to race in it. He was a class winner last year, won in Pro-Am, so good to have him back on the grid. Mercedes coming here with 12 cars. It is the most numbered brand, 11 Porsches, but Mercedes AMG out-tips that with 12, and 4 outright wins have gone either Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes AMG's way. George Kurtz is behind the wheel of the car as he comes up towards La Source, down to, what, first gear or second gear for that hairpin?
Depends on the car, actually. We saw earlier with the Ferrari it was first gear, but last time I raced in the McLaren, it was second gear there. As we see at BMW, it was the McLaren, the Optimum car. I think that is kissing the wall, gets away with that, because at that point when the rear kisses first, it can throw you nose back in and spin you around, and there is that Mustang we saw getting worked on has now gone into the garage.
James Allen at the wheel of that Optimum McLaren. Some rather concerned faces. Salman Vega looking on then at 65, thinking, are we going to go back out? Not very happy. 29 Porsche coming into the pit lane. This is the AV Racing by Car Collection Motorsport entry of Noam Abramczyk, Mathieu Dietrich, Fabien Duffieux and Bob Wan out of GT World Challenge Asia. Now this, I'll nailed my colours to the mast early on. If you want a dark horse as a winner, even though it's in gold, I think this car could be one to watch. Chris Lullum, Thierry Vermeulen, Harry King. We've seen how well they've gone in endurance. We've seen how well they've gone, Thierry and Chris, in sprint. And we know how well the Aston can do around here. Okay, 2C still getting on top of it, but if you want an outsider, this could be it.
Yeah, I think it's a great shout. And yeah, running 3 drivers is like a pro lineup. So
yeah, exactly.
You look at it originally and you go, that's worse because you could have an extra driver. But for performance, it's much, much better because you're cycling through 3 drivers much quicker than 4. So when you get back in after a shorter break, you're straight back on the money. Yes, you're tired by the end of it, but if you're on it for a result, adrenaline pushes you through. An 11th overall, first in class, half a second clear of that Allen Optimum McLaren, which was briefly in the wall at Speaker's Corner the lap ago. But yeah, I think that's a good outside shout for a disruptive overall podium.
Yeah, and the team for a long, long time had TBA as the 4th driver and then elected to go that 3-driver route as Chris Lullum then powers downhill and again just ever so slightly sideways, finds a little bit of dampness then. Very successful in esports, in karts, in radicals, which he absolutely mopped up in the UK last year. But Chris Lullum set for his maiden 24 Hours of Spa, and that car coming here second in the championship in the Gold Cup, the championship being GT World Challenge Europe rather than IGTC.
Yeah, mega first sector on the previous lap. It was only a 10th off purple, so the Aston's strong in a straight line. And again, as a driver, that's what you want to see. Strong in a straight line means you've got a chance to be one of the overtakers. You can have a fast car around here, but not quick in the speed traps, and that's frustrating in the race because you don't have the straight line performance to do any of the overtakes. Going to breeze past that Mercedes as well in sector 3, so could be potentially going to finish the lap here. The middle sector wasn't strong, but still could be an improvement on his 11th overall at the moment.
Around the outside there is number 71 AF Corsa Ferrari, Luis Perez Companc, Stefan Lemeray, Matthias Perez Companc, and Le Mans winner Miguel Molina behind the wheel. Chris Lullum here coming up to the timing line. Fastest in class, 11th overall, won't improve on that lap given that he's down in sectors. If the splits are green, they're good, and if they're purple, they're really good, and anything other than that is going to be slower. So lap done for Lullum. Already, La Source looking a little bit messy with lots of gravel dragged onto the inside of the road, interestingly.
Yeah, as the cars dip a wheel on the outside, it brings it onto the racing line and then it gets dispersed and scattered. So yeah, it can look a bit like a war zone after a few stints there, and interesting to see what race control do. If we get a full course yellow, will they extend it to clean the track in places? Because we have seen punches before from the stones here at Spa.
Now this car is currently 5th. It is the Santalot Run Qatari Motor Federation entry, and Ibrahim Al Abdul Khani is at the wheel of it. He's raced GT cars in the FIA Motorsport Games last year in Valencia, for example. He's also raced touring cars, and he has raced in Carrera Cup Middle East, and the Qatari drivers coming into GT World Challenge Europe this season, both sprint and endurance. I have to say the car looks fantastic. The maroon and grey colour scheme really does work well. The Qatari colours as downhill then, with a good number of fans here on a Thursday evening. Powering uphill now, and the session with just over 6 minutes to go. But again, this car that is running in the Bronze Cup could be there or thereabouts, couldn't it? Especially given Audi's reliability. Yeah,
that's a very valid point as well. Audi probably the benchmark for reliability as well here historically at Spa. As we look at the Beech Dean Aston Martin, so British GT fans will be accustomed to seeing Anthony McIntosh on board the car right now. Good striking livery on that ice cream flavoured Aston Martin.
Yeah, Beech Dean is Andrew Howard's organisation. Andrew honoured at the SRO Awards last year with the Philippe Chariot Award for great spirit towards GT racing, and Tony McIntosh we saw in Asian Le Mans in the winter, but Andrew Howard, British GT champion, ice cream magnate, and dare one say the oldest driver on the grid in what, 61 years of age now is Andrew, who came out of mini racing. Tony McIntosh then, another driver familiarising himself with Spa and with the Aston, comes downhill now then, down towards the so-called Speaker's Corner. Tony, who is bronze graded, you've got factory driver Valentin Asclot, and headphones, not just for people, but for dogs as well. It's getting towards ice cream temperature as well now, isn't it, late on in the day, as Tony McIntosh goes through Pouhon, and he's being chased by Marco Mappelli in the VSR run Lamborghini there. So into the last 5 minutes of the session, and a number of the teams hopefully ticking off their to-do list and working through the program that they've set themselves.
Yeah, you talk about the VSR Lambo behind it. We haven't got a Lamborghini in the top 20 at the moment, so that will be a slight concern for them. He has got the speed, but that's more the pro-am difference. You can see 3 cars running nose to tail. Mercedes behind the Lambo flashing the headlights, but the Aston Martin seems to have the grunt there and it's just pulled away. And it's actually the Lambo that looks under attack from that pro-class Mercedes.
And this is going to be how it is in the race. You know, you're going to come across a car that you think is slower, but it takes a while to get by. Number 17 Mercedes, though, they're diving through, and that is the get-speed car of Lucas Stoll, Jules Gounon and Fabian Schiller, but then having overtaken the Lamborghini pits, just to sort of prove a point, Jules Gounon at the wheel of it, the French driver who these days lives in and races under the flag of Andorra, which also prompts to wish his partner Michelle Gatting well after breaking her foot a couple of weeks ago, winner of the Gold Cup in 2022, Michelle Gatting, and GT fans wish her well. So Tony McIntosh over the line, and then down through La Source, past the endurance pits, now up Eau Rouge, and we've got 3 minutes and change on the clock.
Yeah, 2:22 for his last lap. We were seeing the fastest bronzes in the low 20s earlier today, so he'll be looking to find a bit more time if possible. But then look at all of that traffic in front of them. Maxi Gort's one of them in that Mercedes in front. He's on an out lap, so he'll be trying to get up to speed, but that will be a distraction for that Aston Martin.
Well, rather, there is the fastest car in the session. The BMW just going through Les Combes. Augusto Farfus now installed behind the wheel of it. And 59 McLaren, which is third. Benji Goethe now taking over that car. His brother is away on F2 duty this weekend. Benji Goethe, who's been a class winner here in the past. In 2022, he won silver. Same year, he won the Silver Championship in Endurance Cup. So the McLarens have shown good pace. The one thing you always kind of fear about, and history shows you this, is their reliability. But we know they can get to the end of 24 hours. Optimum have done a really good job. Inception have done a good job in the past as well. So maybe this is the year that McLaren finally makes that real breakthrough. Yeah, we saw it at Ricard, didn't we? The 6-hour race, so fast over a lap, over a stint, but they couldn't put 6 stints together at Ricard, and that was really the tale of that race. But Monza, second overall, that was better. Yeah, much better, over 3 hours. Yeah. So now we're ramping up to 24. It depends where your trend and heart goes on that one, but it would be mega to see that car get a result. Like we said, it's so fast over a lap. Great feedback from all the drivers. Everyone loves driving it. It is just that Achilles heel. Can it do a 24-hour race without an issue? Because, like we've said, 75 cars on the grid, one car will get to the end without one. Yeah, 1995 was a good McLaren year with winning its first GT races, winning at Le Mans. I wonder whether this could be an anniversary year, you know, ending in a 5. We're going to see a great McLaren result here. Well, 59 Benji Goethe right now is third. Ferrari second. Vincent Abril has taken over number 51. And you've got Ferrari fourth as well, and Ferrari sixth, courtesy of Dustin Blattner. But Goethe then over the line. Marvin Kirchhofer, who was really quick here last week in British GT. I mean, when is he not? And also Joseph Loke, the man from Macclesfield. They're the 3 drivers of that car. Yeah, sorry, Loke actually has the fastest Sector 1 out of anyone in this session as well. So again, proving the McLaren quick in Sector 1. All about straight line speed, so the drivers will be happy with that. And yeah, Benji Goethe just sort of hampered by the red flag, hasn't had many laps, and that was his first flyer of this run as well. As you see the traffic coming into this final sector, everyone trying to get through, 40 seconds left on the clock, so everyone obviously starting their last lap of pre-qualifying now. Indeed so, as Alex Malikin in the number 911 goes across the line 8th fastest. I still think that car could be there or thereabouts. I know he's a silver, but he's got Richard Lietz and Thomas Preining with him, and what Richard Lietz doesn't know about winning endurance races in Porsche ain't worth knowing. He's the man to have alongside you, isn't he? And I think that's why we've seen such strides in performance from Malikin, because he's getting tutored and coached with all the data, all the video. He's able to see that, replicate it, and try and copy and paste it out on track.
as the checkered flag falls. So the team's now already switching attention to qualifying. Feels strange having qualifying at night, 9:15 local time. It will kick off 4 sessions of qualifying, so it will run for over an hour and 15 minutes in its duration. But now these teams have to get the cars back in. And it's a pretty quick turnaround to get these cars into quali trim, fueled, ready and good to go.
There, number 23 is the Team RJN McLaren. Bob Neville's team making a very welcome return to the 24 Hours of Spa this year, with Ben Durr joining the team for the first time, Tommy Foster, Reece Barr and Alex Buncombe as the regular trio. And the car has Al Buncombe behind the wheel of it, and it's got rather sort of blocked in by the traffic there. Really crowded house around Alex, third generation Buncombe racer.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing here is because some drivers are on their last lap, if they're not going to improve, they're going to box, whereas some drivers can finish the lap, of course, so they're still pushing, and you've really got this awkward concertina effect. Interesting to see how dirty it is off track as that Ferrari, the Kessel blue and white one there, ran wide, kicked up a load of the dust, and that's going to be a theme in the race as well. When you go offline, either to overtake or be overtaken, suddenly the grip levels change, and you've got to deal with that instantly.
And way out wide there goes the Aston Martin to sort of get out of the way, as back onto the circuit it comes in the background. 23, all of these drivers heading up towards the checkered flag. It'll be interesting to see which teams ask their drivers to take the flag in the pits, just buy 3-4 minutes more of time ready for qualifying, or actually take the flag on the track. 188 Jack Hawksworth. Now this is an interesting entry for a McLaren. We know how good Jack is from winning in INSA races for Lexus, but drafted into the Garage 59 stable, and so far going nicely.
Yeah, really well, and it's a pretty strong lineup across the board there. Good to see Sean Balfe back in that car as well. Very quick bronze drivers. Hawksworth goes to the line, but they'll be very happy that Garage 59. They've got 2 cars inside the top 10 there in this pre-qualifying session. So
the flag taken, and still BMW rounding out the session at the top. The car that was quickest in free practice, number 9 Mercedes, is 12. Maxi Goetz is currently behind the wheel of the car.
Race control to all teams, where there will be full course yellow in 20 seconds.
And that full course yellow is a practice rather than because of an incident, just to let you know. Niels Vittich, again, the race director. We'll hear from him a lot, I'm sure, over the course of the weekend. But
10 seconds.
Here it comes. This is a practice for the teams. No incident, but it's to get them used to the count and how it's deployed.
3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, full course yellow.
And that information will come up on the in-car marshalling display. The flags are there, the lighting panels around the circuit are there, and so that gives the drivers an opportunity to discover just how it will be deployed and what instructions they will hear and how it will look in the car.
Yeah, and all the cars have an automated full course yellow speed limiter, so exactly the same as the pit speed. That holds you at 50 here at Spa, it holds you at 80. The problem is not all the manufacturers' 80 is the same, so you do get behind a car and it's going slightly slower, and of course you can't overtake, so you will see some bunching up, but after a long full course yellow we go back to a safety car, so that kind of negates that. But on a short full course yellow it can be detrimental, so all the teams, manufacturers will be trying to tune their 80 to the same 80 as race control have got for them. So you might see sometimes on the dash 80.6 and you go, well, they're speeding, but their 80.6 is actually an SRO 80. So all marginal gains, as this makes me feel very tripped out and about to fall over. So you take over, David.
Steady on, he's gone. This is a really weird look at the Ferris wheel that is down in the fan zone where there's the concert stage, loads of bars. Oh, Osborne's interest picked up again there. And places to eat and manufacturer activation, and Monster Energy here with a big setup. So I'm feeling woozy now.
Takes me back to my younger days on a night out. I want to know how physically we do that shot.
Move on. At the end of pre-qualifying then, BMW topping the times. Augusto Farfus, Jesse Krohn, Raffaele Marciello each doing a stint, but only 21 thousandths of a second quicker than the top Ferrari of Alessio Rovera, Vincent Abril and Alessandro Pierguidi. Joseph Loke, Marvin Kirchhoff and Benji Goethe were third, ahead of Alessio Dono, Antonio Fuoco and Arthur Leclerc. The best bronze was fifth of the Qatari trio, with Julian Hansus joining this weekend. The best gold, Vermeulen, Lallam and King in the Aston Martin. Then we also have the Beechdean Aston Martin that comes out of Pro-Am. Fastest in the class, Ross Gunn, Valentin Asclo, Tony McIntosh and Andrew Howard. Where do you find the best of the silvers? Quite a long way down, I think I'm right in saying, because 23rd is number 99 Audi, the Tresor Attempto car of Companc, Deans, DeFalco and Arca. But with 75 cars in the session, the one big casualty, number 81 Mercedes, that has ended up with a lot of damage. And so Gabriele Piana, and I say it again, I'm really surprised that it is Piana that had the moment. He's now got to explain himself to the team and the Winwood Racing squad with a lot of work to do now to get that car ready for tomorrow, never mind tonight. I think the chances of seeing the car in qualifying are negligible. Okay, it's only pre-qualifying, which is a kind of free practice session, but there's an awful lot of big names a long way down. Would you have put money on Dries van Thor, Sheldon van der Linde and Marco Wittmann only being 40th, or Matt Campbell, Bastien Bous and Mathieu Jaminet only being 33rd? At least number 32 is 32nd, so there's some synergy for Hugo de Wilde, Charles Weerts and Kelvin van der Linde. Further down, the Collards reunited, class winners in 2020, with BJ Garg and Adam Ali. They're 43rd in the times. Valentino Rossi, René Rast, Kevin Magnussen 48th, but it's not about times per se, it is about getting the cars right, and it's a BMW bookending the order, in fact, because Marcello Tomassoni, Federico Malvestiti, Felice Giannini and Conor De Filippi's BMW for the Ceccato Racing team. That rounds out the order. So BMW top, BMW bottom, and plenty of different brands in the mix. This 75 entry, 15 previous winners, 45 different nationalities represented across the entry as the cars here trickle their way back into the pit lane.
The only other thing to add to that Piano is obviously he's in European GT4 as well, and they've got their pre-qualifying session in an hour and 13 minutes from now, so that's double duty's hard enough, and then after having a crash like that, he's got to really get his head back in the game and go for it. And yeah, I can't see that car being ready for quali. You see all the cars actually queuing to get into pit lane, and suddenly the track goes quiet.
It does indeed, under this full course yellow in-lap. Right, let's have a look at the highlights then of that session, which began on a damp but drying circuit. BMWs are plenty ready to go on track and try and either chase a time or work through a programme. There you've got the Ferraris sitting ready to go. Drivers clamouring aboard cars, including Valentino Rossi. There was quite a lot of heroics early on as people tried to battle their way to track position. Number 91 Porsche was in the mix in the Bronze Cup, 33 in gold. Chris Lull and Thierry Vermeulen at the wheel. Harry King, the third man, but Gabriele Piana, a trip to the Med Centre after a big whack in the wall coming up through Radion. Last year's winners in the 007 Aston Martin, Marco Sorensen, Nicky Tim and Matthew Drudy reunited once more as we had the Garage 59 McLaren bouncing through the gravel and Audis bouncing over the curb, getting a lot of air into the chicane. 59 McLaren third in the end. Benji Goethe doing the gun lap, bringing it home. Second fastest was number 51 Vincent Abril behind the wheel at the end of the session, but number 98 BMW quickest. Qualifying then is coming up later, and join us just after 9 o'clock local time for the qualifying session.